Hey everyone, welcome to the MindMajix YouTube channel. Here you will find insightful video tutorials to kickstart your tech career. Having said that, today we bring you the Business Analyst Interview questions and answers to help you crack that next interview and land in your dream company. Beyond the basics, we want to set you up for the interview success. So we take our list of questions seriously. We analyze real job descriptions from top sites like Indeed, Naukri, LinkedIn, and Glassdoor. But that's not all. We went a step further, surveyed and talked directly with experienced analysts, top recruiters, and hiring managers. With thorough preparation and these top 50 interview questions backing you up, you're standing well beyond halfway through your quest to ace that interview. So grab your notepad and get ready to transform yourself into a business analyst interview rockstar. That said, if these are the type of videos you'd like to watch, then hit that like and subscribe buttons and the bell icon to get notified whenever we host. Now, without further delay, let's get started with the top 50 business analyst interview questions and answers. So, let's get started with the first question. Explain the importance of understanding drivers, impacts, and key influencers in the BizOps domain. So this question is asked to an experienced candidate, let's say maybe having 2 to 3 years of experience based on the domain he's working in. Maybe it's a production line or automobile or food and beverages, etc. It can be any domain, right? So as far as the interviewer and interviewee is having a good understanding of what exactly drives that business, what are the impacts of few serious decisions made, and what are the key influences, you can straightforwardly answer the question. The sample answer for this question is, as a candidate, you should emphasize the significance of comprehending various factors that affect business operations, such as market trends, consumer behavior, and industry regulations. They should demonstrate an understanding of how these factors impact decision-making and strategy formulation. The second question in the list. Give me an example of a situation where you translated data into actionable insights for stakeholders. Now, this question is for experienced candidates. So you should have your homework done and enlist some important critical business decisions that you took up in your existing or current company. This step will initiate a good. Now, a sample answer for this question can be given as follows. The interviewer expects you to demonstrate their ability to connect data analysis with practical business recommendations. Share a specific example from your past experience where the data was analyzed, identified with meaningful patterns or trends, and communicated actionable insights to your stakeholders. Now, the third question in the list. How do you approach automating reporting for weekly business metrics? So, as a business analyst, you might be having a brief understanding of what exactly happens week on week, month on month, quarter on quarter, or year on year. You might have to keep track of your numbers, your traffic, your leads, your conversions, right? So if something is going down, maybe if the traffic is reducing from your website, or if the number of leads are reducing from the website, then you might have to analyze the week on week trends, and you should identify which update on your website or what is the reason for the drop. Is it the trend or is it the search volume, right? So this task could be a little time consuming. So there are ways where you can automate data collection and analysis, right? So you should be able to answer few of those tricks and techniques that you should apply or you have already applied in your current company that have reduced your time. So the sample answer for this question is, as a candidate, you should outline their process for automating reports, including data extraction, transformation, and visualization. You should discuss tools and technologies that you have used for automation and highlight any efficiency improvements or scalability achieved through automation. So either you can use Power Query or Power Pivot tables, and apart from that, you can also use some macros in Excel for the process of data collection, and you can use some of the popular and trending business intelligence tools like Power BI and Tableau for creating a visualization report so that it has a good understanding for your stakeholders. Now with that, let's move to the next question in the list, which is, what methods do you employ for complex data analysis? Now, the sample answer for this question is, this question is going to gauge you on analysis grounds such as root cause, deep dives, correlations, regressions, simulations, and optimization. You should demonstrate proficiency in various data analysis techniques, explaining how they select and apply the most appropriate method based on the problem in hand. If possible, you should also provide examples of how you have used these techniques to uncover insights and drive decision making. Now, the fifth question in the list: how would you approach identifying opportunities to reduce process gaps within the organization? So this is something as to a manager level candidate. Now, the answer for this question is: the candidate should describe their approach to process analysis, including data collection, process mapping, and gap identification. They should emphasize their ability to identify efficiencies or bottlenecks and purpose solutions for improvement, leveraging data-driven insights. Now, the sixth question in the list: do you have experience with capacity planning, operations planning, or business analysis? The answer for this question is as follows: provide examples of your experience in capacity planning, operation planning, and business planning, highlighting specific projects or initiatives that you have been involved in. You should demonstrate your understanding of these concepts and your relevance to business operations. Try to make sure that your experience falls in line with your upcoming company or the company that you're going to join, right? Now, the next question in the list, the seventh one: how comfortable are you with SQL? Can you walk me through a sample query you've written? Now, even if you're an experienced candidate or a fresher, make sure that you're not choosing any simple queries. Choose some complex queries that you might have learned during your classes if you're a fresher, or if you're an experienced candidate, then choose a query that you might have used in your day-to-day data analysis, like building a consolidated table, which is rather too simple but tests your skill to understand the problem statement, right? Now, the sample answer for this question is: as a candidate, you should demonstrate proficiency in SQL by explaining a specific query that you've used in the past, the problems involved in the request made by your client about the consolidated reports, etc. Basically, the explanation should showcase your understanding of data retrieval and manipulation using SQL syntax. Now, the eighth question: have you ever used data automation tools to streamline reporting? The answer for this question is: discuss your experience with tools like Excel macros, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Query, Power Pivot, etc., or dedicated reporting automation tools. The answer should detail the specific reports automated and resulting efficiencies that you have achieved in your current organization. Now, the ninth question: what is your understanding of data pipelining and data extraction using SQL? And the answer for this question is: as a candidate, you should define data pipelining and explain how SQL can be used to extract data from various sources. A strong answer will demonstrate your understanding of data movement, process, and utilizing SQL for data acquisition. I'm moving ahead. The 10th question: beyond SQL, what are you familiar with any other data analysis tools? Example, Power BI and Tableau. Now, if you are a fresher, then this is the question which will be fired at you to understand how interested are you in data analysis. At times, you can tell the interviewer that you are interested in some business analysis tools like Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, Power Query, and when it comes to Excel, you can also tell about Power Query, Power Pivot, and pivot tables. And apart from Excel, you can also tell about some other languages or variants of SQL like PostgreSQL, SQL Server, etc. This demonstrates your interest in data analysis and business analysis and your skill set in data analytics and business analytics and various tools used in the process. Now, a sample answer for this question can be the following: you should list any additional data analysis tools that you possess experience with. They briefly explain how you've used these in your data visualization or analysis. And the Power BI and Tableau are top BI tools and more preferred by any top organization, so you should include them in your answer. Now, the 11th question: explain the difference between a select statement and a join clause. Would you use each? Now, the answer for this question is: a select statement retrieves data from one or more tables, specifying which columns to return. A join clause combines data from multiple tables based on a shared relationship, often using columns with matching values. So it's a beginner level question. Now moving ahead, the 12th question. Write a query to select all customers from customers where the city column equals New York and active flag is set to Y. Now this is a simple SQL query which you have to write in any of the languages you are comfortable with, maybe a SQL Server, Oracle DB, or maybe PostgreSQL, MySQL, any SQL language which you prefer or which you feel comfortable with. Now the answer is select star from customers where city is equal to New York and active is equals to Y. Make sure that you use single quotes because you are trying to use the character data type, right? Now moving ahead, the 13th question. What is the difference between where clause and having clause? This question is asked to all the three types of candidates, whether it is a freshman, intermediate, or a highly experienced candidate. So they really want to understand if you have a good understanding or good knowledge on SQL. So this is one of the most frequently asked questions. So the answer for this question is really simple. A where clause filters data before applying aggregate functions. A having clause filters data where after the aggregate functions are applied. Moving ahead, we have the 14th question, which speaks about explain how would you use a subquery in SQL statement. So for an experienced candidate, subqueries, the joins, and the SQL CTEs are really important. So now the answer for this question. A subquery is a nested query used within another query to retrieve data based on specific conditions. Subqueries can be used for comparisons, filtering, and joining data from multiple tables. Now, the 15th question. Can you update existing data in a SQL table? Provide an example with syntax. Now, this is a beginner level question. Imagine there is an existing data table and you might have to update a few rows in that particular data table, or you might have to add a new row or a column. Now, how would you do that? That's the question. So basically, the one and only approach, or the simplest approach out of all, would be an update query. Now, the answer to this question is you can use the update statement with a set of clause to specify which columns to update or which rows to update, or if you want to add a new column or a row, you need to specify that, followed by a where clause to filter the rows to effect. Now, the 16th question. How would you approach writing an optimized SQL query to improve performance? Now, this is an advanced level interview question. The answer for this question is consider factors like minimizing table scans, using appropriate where clause filters, and leveraging indexes on frequently used columns. Now, the 16th question is done. Moving ahead, we have the 17th question. What strategies you can use to ensure data integrity to prevent errors in a database? The answer for this question. Strategies include defining data types and constraints on columns, using stored procedures for complex operations, and implementing proper user permissions for data access. Now, the 18th question. How do you ensure stakeholders are involved and aligned throughout a business process improvement initiative? Now, this is a manager level question. If you're applying for manager data analytics, then these are the type of questions you might be facing. The answer for this question is candidates should emphasize clear communication, regular updates, and selecting feedback from stakeholders. They can mention techniques like workshops, meetings, and surveys to keep stakeholders engaged. Now, 19th question. What metrics would you track to measure the success of a revamped business process? Now, the answer for this question is candidates should consider metrics like cycle time, cost reduction, error rates, and customer satisfaction. They should explain how these metrics would reflect the process improvement objectives. Now, let us imagine that you have cracked an A/B test. You might have some issues with the current website. You might have created an A/B test with some conditions, and then you have put up the A/B test. Then you might have some measures. What is the traffic? What is the interaction, right? And what are the impressions that you're receiving on your website? Is your current version good or the updated version good? You need to identify that. So that is the answer you can give. So based on your current company experience and an A/B test or a hypothetical test, you can answer this question. Moving ahead, we have the 20th question for the day, which is explain the core principles of agile development methodology. So this is a business analyst interview question, right? So business analysis deals with agile, scrum, product management, project management, right? So you need to have a pinch of everything. You need to spread out your roots into every aspect of the real-time business. Now the answer for this question is core principles include iterative development, continuous improvement, customer focus, and team collaboration. Agile emphasizes working in short sprints, adapting to changes, and delivering value early and often. Now, the 21st question in the list. Describe the roles within a Scrum team. So the answer for this question is the product owner prioritizes the product backlog, representing the customer needs. The Scrum Master facilitates the Scrum process, removing any roadblocks for the development team. The development team is responsible for developing and delivering working product increments within each sprint. Now the 22nd question. How would you handle a situation where a stakeholder requests significant changes to the product backlog during a sprint? The answer for this question is candidates should emphasize clear communication and the importance of maintaining sprint focus. They might mention discussing the change with the product owner, prioritizing it for the next sprint, or explaining potential delays if the change is integrated mid of the sprint. Now, the 23rd question. What are the different issue types you typically use in Jira for managing a business analysis project? So if you are an experienced candidate, then you might have a good understanding of Jira, what it is, and how exactly it functions. Now, the answer for this question is as follows. Common issue types include user stories, bugs, tasks, and epics. User stories represent functionalities, bugs, and defects to be fixed. Tasks are smaller, work items and epics are large, user stories broken down into smaller ones. Now the next question in the list is 24. How would you leverage Jira to track progress of a business process improvement initiative? The answer for this question is candidates should explain using Jira boards to visualize the workflow. Example, to do, in progress, done. They can mention using Jira for sprint planning, assigning tasks, tracking progress, and reporting on initiatives progress. Now the 25th question in the list. Are you familiar with any Jira add-ons or integrations that can enhance the functionality for business analysts? The answer for this question is there are many add-ons for Jira, such as those for reporting, data visualization, or drawing flowcharts directly within Jira. The candidate can mention specific add-ons they've used or express interest in exploring them for future projects. Now, the 26th question in the list. Explain how would you connect Power BI to a data source. Now, this is a beginner level question. The answer for this question is just mention the steps. Connecting to Excel involves the get data option and select the Excel file. Connecting to database requires the same step, just get data file and provide the server address and some credentials, maybe the username and password, and you can get the data from cloud as well. Now the 27th question. How would you establish relationships between tables in a Power BI data model? Now this question is based on data modeling and data transformation. Now let's imagine that you have data stored in a database and next bit of data is stored in an Excel spreadsheet. And there are some discrepancies in data which you might have to clean. And this is where the data transformation comes into picture. You get connected to both the sources, you draw data onto Power BI, you transform it, and then you establish a connection based on data modeling and the cardinality functions, right? Now, the answer for this question is relationships are created by identifying matching columns between tables to connect them logically. This allows Power BI to understand how data from different tables relates to each other from accurate analysis. Now, 28th question. How can you create interactive filters in Power BI to allow users to explore data dynamically? Now, the answer for this question is use slicers, filters, and drill down capabilities to allow users to interact with data and focus on specific segments. This enables deeper analysis and exploration within the report. Now, moving ahead, we have the 29th question. Explain how would you create a calculated field in Power BI? The answer for this question is KPIs can be created using DAX formulas combining existing measures or calculations, defining the KPI formula, set a target value for comparison, and format the display for clear visibility. Now, the 30th question. How would you share a Power BI report within your colleagues and stakeholders? Now, the answer for this question is publish the report to the Power BI service, granting access to specific users or groups. This allows collaboration and centralized access to the report for all stakeholders. Now, moving ahead to the 31st question in the list. What security measures would you consider when sharing Power BI reports with a wider audience? Now, this is completely related to the visibility. So the answer for this question is utilize role-based access control within the Power BI service to restrict data visibility based on user permissions. This ensures that users only see the data they are authorized to access. Now, 32nd question. How to create a calculated field in Tableau? When would you use this feature? The answer for this question, calculated fields create new data points based on existing ones using formulas. They are useful for transforming data, performing calculations, or creating custom metrics not directly available in the source data. Now, the 33rd question. How you can filter data in Tableau using different methods? The answer for this question, Tableau offers various filtering options like filters allowing excluding data based on specific conditions, context filters dynamically filter based on selections made in other visualizations on the dashboard. Now, the 34th question. How can you troubleshoot slow performance or incorrect data visualizations? The answer. So consider factors like data volume, inefficient calculations. So if there are any queries that needs to be optimized, try to do that. And data source connectivity issues, if your API is working or not, just check that. Or improper chart selection. So you might have to select a specific chart for a specific type of visualization. For example, if you're looking for time-based data, if you're trying to calculate month-on-month performance, week-on-week performance, year-on-year performance, then the type of chart you should select is a line chart, not anything different. And apart from that, reviewing your data types, optimizing calculations, and choosing appropriate visualizations that can help resolve visualization issues. Now, the 35th question on the list. Explain the difference between index match and VLOOKUP in Excel. So this question is based on Excel, and you can be asked in place of XLOOKUP, in place of HLOOKUP, right? So just understand the functionality of lookup, what exactly it does, and understand the functionality of index and match functions, and what can you do when you combine them both. That's the exact answer for this. Now, another dedicated to this particular question, another major difference is if you're using a lookup function, then remember, if you are using especially VLOOKUP, then the match goes from left to right, not from right to left. If you're searching for name in front of the employee number, then it happens to be the employee number is on the left side and the name is on the right side. So it starts from column A, then the search extends to B, C, D, E, F, not the other way around. If your employee ID is in the D column and your employee name is in the A column, then right to left match is not going to happen in VLOOKUP. But that is something you can resolve using an XLOOKUP or an index match. So remember a few major functionalities of lookup and index match. So there is your answer. Now, a sample answer for this question can be as follows. VLOOKUP searches for a value in the leftmost column and returns the corresponding value from another column based on a match. Index match offers more flexibility, allowing you to specify both the row and column for the returned value and can even search within a range that isn't the leftmost column. 36th question in the list. How can you use conditional formatting in Excel to highlight specific data patterns or trends? Now, conditional formatting is a theory-based question as well as a practical-based question. So your interviewer might ask you to provide some conditions and highlight a few rows or few cells in a data table. So practice conditional formatting in Excel. The answer for this question as far is conditional formatting allows you to define rules based on cell values, formulas, or data bars. You can highlight cells that meet certain criteria like exceeding a target value or falling outside a specific range. Moving ahead, we have 37th question. How would you use pivot charts and tables to analyze large data sets? The answer for this question is pivot tables summarize data in a tabular format, allowing for easy manipulation of rows and columns. Pivot charts visually represent data trends from pivot tables. They are valuable tools for analyzing large data sets and identifying patterns. 38th question. Explain the process of creating a scenario analysis in Excel using a data table tool. Now the answer for this question is the data table tool allows you to see how changes in one or two input variables impact a formula's outcome. You can set up different scenarios with varying input values and analyze the results changing in the output. Now the 39th question in the list. Explain the benefits and potential drawbacks of using macros in Excel. An experience level answer would be as follows. Macros automate repetitive tasks in Excel, saving time and reducing errors. However, drawbacks include potential complexity for non-technical users, security concerns regarding external macros, and potential compatibility issues with different Excel versions. So for example, if you dedicate an Excel macro for extracting data from a file location and someone renames the file or changes the file location, then your macro might not work. Of course, there are some turnarounds for this particular problem, but that can be a basic problem in macros. And apart from that, few other security reasons and other complexities are the ones mentioned in this answer. Moving ahead, we have the 40th question. Give an example of a situation where you used a macro to automate a task in Excel. So the answer for this question is, you should provide a specific example of a macro that you created outlining the task it automates and the benefits it provides. Now the 41st question. What are some best practices for writing and maintaining macros in Excel? The answer for this question is, best practices include using descriptive variable names, adding comments for code clarity, utilizing error handling for unexpected inputs, and testing the macro thoroughly before deployment. Now, the 42nd question in the list. How can you use the SUMIFS function to conditionally sum data based on multiple criteria? So the answer for this question is, SUMIFS allow you to sum values that meet multiple criteria across different columns. It takes multiple arguments specifying the range to sum the criteria for each column, to filter by, and the corresponding ranges containing the criteria values. For beginners and for the ones who don't know about SUMIFS functions, don't worry, we will be covering a practical demonstration on this so that you have a better, comfortable, and very good understanding of the theory behind SUMIFS function and the practical implementation. So moving ahead, we have the 43rd question. Explain the concept of nested functions in Excel and provide an example. So the answer for this question, techniques include checking for typos, which can be a typing error or data types, using a formula evaluator to step through calculations, analyzing errors and their messages, and verifying cell references for accuracy. Now, the 44th question. Explain scan function in Excel. So scan function is pretty new function. So the answer for this question is, so scan basically is a function progressively applied along with a lambda. So lambda is not an algebraic or mathematical lambda. It's a function included in scan function. It can be a mathematical logical function that it can act as a condition to extract and scan, or scan and extract a specific part of your data table. So the Excel scan function progressively applies a lambda to each element in an array and returns an array of all intermediate values. This function is particularly useful for generating running totals, cumulative statistics, or constructing sequences based on the array elements and a specified operation. So the 45th question is SUMIFS question in Excel. Now let's quickly get back to the Excel spreadsheet. So here we have an Excel spreadsheet and this is the data. So here we have the employee ID and the item sold, which is a branded phone, and the number of sales were received. Right? Now I need employee. So the first employee ID sold how many number of Samsung, Nothing, Apple, and OnePlus phones. So this is the question. How could you do that? The answer is really simple. Just use SUMIFS. Press tab to select. Now the sum range. Just follow the required parameters. So the first parameter is it needs the number of conversions. Just give the number of conversions, comma, and criteria range. Now I want the brand name, or I can also go with the employee ID number. So let's go with the employee ID number. I'll show you a small technique here. Just click on the cell A2, hold shift and control, press lower arrow key, and the entire range of employee IDs has been selected, comma, and now the next criteria, where are your resultant employee ID numbers? So here are my resultant employee ID numbers. This is the one, comma, and next range 2, the place where the whole set of mobile brands. So this is in the column B, select that, comma, and where is your selected brand? It's here. Now close the bracket. Before you enter the formula, before you close the formula, just make sure that the cell references are fixed. So this particular F5 will not change for the entire column. So fix it. And E6. Now this employee ID will change, right? But not the column. So I want to fix the column but not the range. So $E and 6 will be done. And if you want to fix the ranges for these selections in column A, column B, and column C, you can do that, but it's not necessary here. So enter. Now drag this formula across all the cells and you will have the number of items sold by each employee ID from the brands. Drag this formula across this cell here and change it to G5 and enter. E6, G5, I think it's done, and drag this across here. Okay, there might be a small error. Let's rewrite the formula. Equals to sum ifs, so that we have a good practice at this, and sum range. Give the sum range, control shift and lower arrow key to select the range, comma, and now the employee IDs, control shift lower arrow key, comma, and your employee ID, which is here, fix it, comma, and the next criteria is this particular brand, comma, and the brand should be Apple, enter. So before that, fix. So it was okay. I should have selected nothing with G5. Freeze the reference, and this should column E fixed, enter. There you go. This, there you have it. Now copy paste the same formula and edit the formula. Okay, now I understood. So when you shifted the formula, the cell range is changed. Now if you can fix this, let's say F4, fix this as well, and fix this range as well, and press enter. I think the formula can be copy pasted. That changes is your cell reference, function F4 to freeze it, and there you go. Just drag it and done. And now copy paste the same formula here, change the cell reference to 1 plus here, F4, enter. Now drag it, and there you go. So this is how you can use SumIfs in Excel. And again, somebody might ask you to count. Okay, so just replace sum by countifs, and somebody asks you to find out average, so you can just replace sum with average. So average if, countif, and SumIf are one and the same. So 3 questions covered in 1 question. So SumIfs, averages, countifs are one of the most frequently asked questions. And if we go back to the interview questions, we have the 46th question, lookup question in Excel. So lookup, index match are the most probably asked questions and most frequently asked questions in any of the data analyst and business analyst interview questions. Now let's go back to Excel for the demonstration. So in the same sheet, I have added a question based on lookup. Now here we have date, insertion order, item and device type and everything. Now we don't have conversions here, right? But the conversions is available here. Now you need to identify which is the primary key. So insertion order ID is the primary key which is available in table 2 and table 1. Now you, based on the primary key, you can devise a lookup formula. So we will use VLOOKUP here equals to VLOOKUP. You can choose any of the lookup functions equals to VLOOKUP, and your lookup value is insertion order, right? And here the lookup table array is this one. Where start with your insertion order ID, and where you want to end is the conversions, right? So 1 2 3 4 5 columns, and now which is your resultant array? I want the fifth column, so provide number 5 for the column number 5, and match should be exact match, so choose false, press tab to select and close the bracket. You can also provide 0 if you want in place of false, and now drag the same formula across all the cells. You have your answer. That's how you can use lookup. Now let's get back to the questions again. Now the 47th question, data split or text to columns. This is also one of the frequently asked questions for the beginner levels. Now let's get back to the demonstration. I have the question in the same sheet. Now just select the data, go to data, and here you have text to columns. Press that and choose the delimited option, go to next, and here select space and next and finish. There you go. You split the names text to columns. With that, let's go back to the questions list again. Now we have in 48th question SQL query. So let us go to my SQL workbench where I have already created the tables and some sample questions. So the 48, 49 and 50th questions, the last 3 questions will be based on SQL. So I'll be giving you the questions on the MySQL workbench. So here let's go to the end and let us use the sample database that I've created. There you go, we have the access. Now let me pull up the tables I have in my inventory. So we have an employee table with worker ID, first name, last name, salary, joining date and department. And in the next table, we have bonus details where the bonus amount is referred. And in the title, we have employee titles, right? Somebody might be a manager, somebody might be an executive, somebody might be an assistant manager, right? So this is the data we have. And apart from this, so we will be executing 2 queries based on these tables, and I have another table where we might have to create a consolidated table. So this is one of the frequently asked questions in the major interview rounds. So I have 2 more tables. Student table. So let's check the details in student table. So if you see, we have multiple entries. 1001 Ashok, section A, physics, maths. So this particular Ashok is common for 3 subjects, physics, maths and chemistry. And apart from that, if I scroll down, I can see the same Ashok in section B as well. So we have basically 3 to 4 students, Ashok, Verma, Peter and Jennifer, for subjects physics, maths and chemistry in section A, and the same students in physics, maths and chemistry in section B. So there is a little bit duplication here. Now, what I want you to create is a consolidated table. And apart from that, I have another table here with student address. So Ashok, Verma, Peter and Jennifer has permanent address and current address. Now I want a consolidated table where you specify the list of student name, subject, section along with their permanent and current address, right? So we need an ID, name, section, subject, marks, and along with that I want current and permanent addresses here. Now you need to understand what a consolidated table is, and based on that you need to execute a query, right? So these are the tables. Now let's get started with our queries. Now jumping back to our employee table, right? Let's go with emp table queries. So I want to identify the employees with their first name starting with letter A. How would you do that? So the answer is really simple. Select star from employee table new, where first name like ampersand, repeat, where first name like mod A. So it should have, okay, so this particular query will run and fetch you data for the names ending with A, but we want names starting with A. So it can have A in the beginning and have anything in the end. So we will have the details here. We have Amitabh Singh, and let's say they ask you to write a query for names having anything in the beginning but should end with A, right? Then you can just modify this and you'll get the answer. There you go, right? Now this is something based on like and I like operators. So this is text-based, character-based question where you need to showcase your string and character-based functionality knowledge, right? You need to have good knowledge on understanding how data types in SQL works. Now let's move on to the second question. Now the second question is based on joins. So the question is, identify employees, give me all details basically, where their title is manager. So the third table, if you remember the title table, it had manager, executive, and associate manager, assistant manager, right? So I want the details of the employees who are managers. So the query is simple. Just select star from employee new table, join with the table title, where title of worker ID reference. Title table has worker ID, right? So title table dot worker ID, employee table dot worker ID should match, and worker ID in the title table should be equal to manager. Just run the query, I think we'll get the results. There you go. We have two employees, Monica and Vivek, and they are managers working with department HR and department admin. Now coming back to the first question, right? Building a console. Let me run the tables again, student table and student address. So I want a table console have Ashok, Verma, Peter and Jennifer, and their individual subjects. Now you might think, let me select star from student table and student address table, and I have two more columns over here and it will give me the results. No, that will not be called as a consolidated table, and here we have 18 rows and the resultant table will give us 36 rows, and that is never called as a consolidated table, and that is never the solution to the problem. Now this particular question is relied on your case and the if tables, right? Condition based tables, so it's called as aggregate conditional reference in SQL. So that kind of a query. So let's try to solve that as well. So here is the query. I'm trying to select ID as ID, name as name, and when it comes to, so it's everything based on your select query here, right? So name will be there, ID will be there, but when it comes to address, you're joining two tables, right? Here we are joining student address. Now while you're selecting, use aggregation max and condition case, right? Aggregate condition, this is how you write it. When address is current, then address should be address and end, and it should be represented as current address. And when address is permanent, it should be represented as permanent address. And now coming to section A and B. So when section A, physics is a subject, then mark it as A section physics, and similarly for chemistry and maths. And when section is B, then mark it as B section physics, and same for chemistry and maths. Now the resultant table will yield only in 4 rows. Let's quickly run this particular table, creating a new table here, and it's created. I think it's already present in my query. Now just try to rename it as 2. I think this should help. There you go. And let's call this consolidated info table. Select star from consolidated info table and this query, and there you go. We have 4 rows, nothing more than that. Let me clarify that. So we have nothing more than 4 rows here, and we have a consolidated table here. And that's how you can create a consolidated table. Now with that, we have come to an end of this session. So if you have any queries regarding any of the topics covered in this session, or if you require the resources that we used in this session, like the codes for SQL, spreadsheets in Excel questions, and interview questions, PowerPoint presentation, and any other help that we can resolve, or if you have any queries or doubts, please feel free to let us know in the comment section below, and our team of experts will be happy to resolve all your queries at the earliest. Until next time, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more from MindMajix.